everybody, and welcome to Create Your Best Life with Rex. I'm your host, Rex Sykes, and this is Create Your Best Life with Rex. And I'm very excited about my guest today, and I'm going to tell you about her in just a moment. But I want to thank you for tuning in. And if you're watching live, there's a chat room, and you can leave comments, and you can ask questions from the chat room. And I encourage you to do so. You can interact with my guest and myself, and we really like you to do that. Also, this streams to multiple places, so not everybody all the time do we get to see, because that's just the way the technology is. And so if we miss a comment and you were trying from some platform, I apologize in advance. But the other thing that you can do is know this. Immediately after this broadcast, the replay is available. And I'll scroll things during the show, but the replay will be available, and we want you to very much watch or share the replay. And the replays on Create Your Best Life with Rex, the YouTube channel. So when you go there, do subscribe, because then and hit that bell notification, because then you'll be notified about all the upcoming shows as well, and when they're there, and be reminded of them. And also like and comment and do all that sort of stuff. So let me tell you about my guest, because I'm really thrilled that she's here. I've known her, I think now about a decade, and I'm so blessed to know her. Her name is Mamie-Jean Lamley, and she's a transformational leader, an international speaker, and she is the co-founder of I3 Empowerment Solutions. And she's going to talk a little bit about that too. And she's also the creator of the Ascension to Greatness framework. And this is a purpose-driven path to rise from invisibility to influence by transforming their lived experiences, individuals transforming their lived experiences into legacy-building platforms. Now, through her work, Mamie-Jean guides changemakers to write influential books, build transformational courses, deliver signature talks, and become sought-after podcast guests, and confidently step into TV interviews, all while staying true to their voice, values, and mission. She's the recipient of the Women's Economic Forum's iconic Women Making a Difference Award and an inductee into the Special Olympics Hall of Fame. Mamie-Jean believes that your voice, when aligned with purpose, becomes the spark that awakens others. And here she is, Mamie Lamley. Welcome, Mamie.
Aloha, Rex. How are you today?
I am so well. Aloha to you.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here to talk talk story, yes?
Talk story. That's fantastic. So, and what I want to do before we go any further, just to make sure that I have it, is I want to put your there, so that I read it when I was doing your bio. I want to make sure that people see that now. And can you tell us a little bit about that, since we mentioned that, and then we'll talk about the Ascension.
Well, for me, I don't like telling people what I do, Rex. I like to tell them what I stand for. And the reason for that is because when we can tell people what we stand for, I don't get cut off right away, because people are like, whoa, what do you mean what you stand for? And so I like to share that, I stand for purpose-driven leadership who want to move and want to rise or get elevated from invisible to influential. And the reason for that is because I really do feel that their voice, their story will make an impact in the world. And that is where I come from. It's the ability for me to make that difference. And the one thing that I love to say is this: I get to dream so big, Rex, that I get to fit other people's dreams in it. And that's what Tony Robbins says. It's the ripple effect. And so I live day by day knowing that if I can change one life, that life will ripple effect out to 379,000 people. And so when I said I was going to try and reach 21 million people, Rex, people at first kind of looked at me and they said, oh, are you crazy? But you know how possible this is, Rex? Just our conversation today could be impacting or could make that difference in someone else's life. And that I believe is why I do what I do. Fair enough?
No, that's fantastic. Someone once said that you could take all 8 billion people and put it in a state in the United States. I don't remember, shoulder to shoulder, front to front, back to back kind of thing. And they would all fit in like Idaho. I mean, it wasn't Texas, the largest bit, which is amazing. I mean, once you remove the arm space around you and just press everybody together, 8 billion people would fit in one of the states of the United States. So that always has led me to believe, as anything, if you don't break the chain, you could reach all 8 billion people in a very short period of time. It's just one person doing the job of sharing it with another person who shares it with another person who shares it with another person. So that ripple effect, is powerful. And the interesting thing is we have platforms like this which allow us to reach lots of people.
Yes.
And if those people we reach, the people who are watching right now, were to share it too, we would exponentially start growing our ability to not only reach, but to impact and influence people in positive ways. So you are so right on. I love that.
Thank you. And if we get to live that way, it makes me happy. I get to wake up happy every morning, Rex.
I love that. A lot of people don't. So what's your secret?
My secret is that first moment when I first wake up, I do take time to just breathe in and just give gratitude, because not everybody gets to give gratitude every morning when they wake up. And so that's what I do every morning. I just I thank that higher power that I'm up again. And before I go and make that difference in the world, guess what I do? I take care of myself first. How's that?
As it should be.
Yeah.
As it should be, because if you don't have the energy to do it, you're not going to be able to do much, right? So you got to take care of your own. But what I also appreciate is that so many people wake up with the oh God, I have to do this, or there's somebody's going to call me, or oh, I forgot to do this yesterday, as opposed to going, I'm so glad I'm alive. I'm so happy that I get to do these things. And so it's great when you say I wake up happy, because we all can. We don't all do it, but we all could if we just develop the habit of the practice that you. And it used to be trite, to say, well, I'm above ground. But the older I get, the more happy I am that I'm still above ground. So there's something to be grateful right there. And
absolutely.
What you can do as opposed to what you can't do.
Exactly. And what makes that difference too is that I know when I show up and I'm happy, everyone around me picks up on that energy. And for me, energy is everything, because energy can't be seen, but at the same time, that happiness actually radiates out. And for people who even don't know me, it draws them to me, because they say, why are you so happy? And I'm like, it wasn't always like that, Rex. It wasn't always where I was always happy. And it wasn't until, like I said, I realized, life is too short. My father passed when he was 82, and I was 35 when he was 82. And so it's been a long time since I got to see my dad. And every day that man walked the coastline of my small town called Waianae, and he woke up happy. And we went out and we walked the shorelines to look for treasures, for treasures, Rex. And treasures could be little glass balls that actually floated in from the Japanese fishermen. What I didn't realize, Rex, is we picked those up and collected it. And now it's a collector's item. So I've got several of those glass balls that we have in our home from Hawaii. Of course, I live in Colorado now, and it's a piece that I get to talk about, because it really was a time that brings up good memories for my dad. So yeah,
that's awesome. That is awesome. I said in the intro about Ascension, and I don't want to jump topics right away, or switch topics, but I want to make sure that I do. The Ascension to Greatness framework. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. our voices are powerful tools, and the voice comes in many different ways. And so Dr. Eric and I were business partners, and what we realized is this: there are many ways that someone can actually use their voice, and those ways help us actually, what I call, ascend to the different levels. And so when we talk about ascension to greatness, I work with a lot of people who have a story to tell. Listeners, how many of you out there have a story to tell? And how many of you ever wanted to write a book and never did? Well, the natural ascension plan is, where and how do we get your story out? And so the easiest way is actually through a book. And so what we realized is we use a combination of the talent that all humans bring to the table, and we also use artificial intelligence with empathy. And Rex, I'm going to go, oh, artificial intelligence, because some people still are afraid of it or they don't know what to do with it. Well, we use artificial intelligence with empathy to mainstream our mission, our vision, the values we bring to the table. And then in the Ascension plan, we get to say, let's start with a book. And so we help someone take that story that's inside, bring it out, and then we help them write that book that many people never do. And then from that book, we take that essence of what they have, Rex, and then we say, well, what are you going to do with that book? And so we take that book and we make it into a signature talk. Why? Because that story is so powerful. We want other people to hear it. And not only, but one way is through speaking on stages. Mm-hmm. And so the Ascension is take a book, they can speak on stage, or take the book, Rex, make a course. Or Rex, take that book and let's take all of that experience and let's turn it into one song that is played all over the world. And so, those are the little steps that we get to do. So we can go from book to course to signature talk. And then when we start speaking on larger stages, like you and I have been able to do, we take all that experience and put it into a theme song that's unique to who they are and what they stand for. Wow. And when that happens, so simple to get on podcasts like we're doing right now, or be guests on TV talk shows. That's the ascension to greatness. And you can go as far and as wide as you want to, depending on where you want to be and what your legacy, not live. You don't want to leave your legacy, everybody. I want you to reframe that. You want to live your legacy. Live it today, because that is the essence of who you are.
Wow, that is wonderful. And what an amazing service, because so many people, if they have to do it themselves, it's like, I got to focus on this, and then I got to go over here and learn over that, and then I got to hire somebody over here and do that. And you help provide all of that for them.
We do. And we've developed amazing relationships that align with who we are, what we stand for, and the companies we work for. People like you, Rex. We align with the values. And, when you align with values, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Okay. Yeah.
I love it. I actually, I'm very impressed and very moved, because, it's an amazing thing. We live in a world where there's just so much information now, and there's so many moving parts. And the downside of AI is there's all these fakes and things, and it's hard to get your news to know whether it's right or wrong. Or I saw something this morning on TikTok, for example, and I went and I Googled it and said, no, this is not, that's just bogus. And so having a mentor, having a guide, having a someone like yourself, Mamie, you and your team help other people to coalesce, to coordinate, to, to put it all together. It's about service with you. I know that. I mean, you're giving, you're helping, and it's because of mission. And that is what I think is rare. I mean, there are a lot of people who might do different things, but it's the way you do it from the heart that is so special.
Oh, I don't know any other way. I was raised in the islands of Hawaii, on the island of Oahu, in a small town, Waianae. And, Rex, coming from that background, when I went out into the world to really learn and find my place, your book says it all. How do I live life on my terms? How do I live life on my terms? That was a big question coming from an island, because most of the things that they prepped us to do is to live on that island. And, at age 14 is when I literally got to see what life was like outside of the islands. And that was when I got to run a track. I was a runner. So I did the 100 meters and 200 meters and the triple jump. And when I went out on my own, I went with the team to Los Angeles. Oh my goodness, there was a big eye opener, right? I didn't see the ocean on one side and the mountains on the other side. And so it was a big adjustment. And so culturally, I was very fortunate that my culture and my upbringing allowed me to see the difference, even at the age of 14, And I can say this, since that moment in my life, my tagline to my dad was, Dad, I got places to go, people to see, and things to do. And my dad would say, yes, after you get your college degree. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, but I got places to go. And it was amazing because island life is very small. In fact, if you ever come to a party in Hawaii, Rex, there's at least 311 people who shows up, because that is my immediate aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers and sisters, and their kids, right?
And they all eat poi, right?
Of course we eat poi. It's part of the culture, right? And that was the upbringing that I got. And everywhere I went, and I got exposed. And track was one way that I got to travel, not just to LA, but I got to travel through. I'd say by the time I was 18, I had traveled through 43 states and Canada. And of course, that gave me a bigger view of what life was all about. Right. And so, yeah.
So you were mainly on the island full time until you were 14. And then you got in track, and between 14 and 18, you saw like 43 states. And
yeah, by the time I would say not by the time I was 18, but I would say by the time I was 25, because I was involved also with Special Olympics. Okay.
Okay.
And so I traveled to many different states because I was part of the state team that ran all of the events. So by the time I was 25, I had gone through 43 states and 3 countries. Wow. Just because I was working with Special Olympics. And so, I had 35 years with the organization. And when we first started, we went from 200 athletes. By the time I left, we were serving almost 12,000.
Wow.
over the 35 years that I was there. And the biggest thing that I realized, Rex, is servitude draws people to you. And I had over 20,000 volunteers who were with me over that 35 years. That's priceless. That is priceless.
That is amazing. And you mentioned my book, so I'm going to mention it too. Life on your terms. A lot of people think, well, that means my terms. That means you do it my way.
No.
Yes, some of it is like that, but mostly it's how do you How do you live a life that allows other people to live a life on
Thank you.
their terms, so that you collaborate and you cooperate and you uplift and edify each other, and everybody does better as a result of it. It's not just saying,
No.
"My way, damn it, you can't," So,
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
well, and one of the rules in the book is go first, which means if you want anything to return to you, the law of reciprocity, you must do it first. So service, as you said, is one of the fastest ways to serve others, is one of the fastest ways to uplift yourself as well. In many ways. I mean,
Another word comes to mind too for me. Again, going back to my culture, my Hawaiian culture, ohana. Ohana is the family I was born into. They're always there in Hawaii. And it's the family we get to choose. And, Rex, that brings to mind a story, a while back, I'd say maybe about 6 years ago, when you really showed up as the family I chose, because I was in Wisconsin. Remember, you picked me up, and we had a appointment to go speak to a congregation of 100+ ministers is what we were scheduled to do. And 20 minutes before I got up on stage, we were having breakfast, and I got the phone call that my mom had gone back to her creator. And yeah, it still touches my heart because you were there every step of the way. So when you talk about living life on your terms, which includes the ohana, the one we choose and the one we've run into, that day for me, Rex, is a day that I'll never forget.
Me either. I mean, I do too. And you know what? It was amazing because I know how deeply you were affected. And at the same time, watching you serve those people, you never missed a beat. No one would ever know that there was anything that had happened recently, much less at any time, because your ability to focus on them and minister to them and give them what they needed in your time of need was truly. I mean, I feel blessed to have been there, to be part of it that way. It just, and so I am grateful. And
yeah, that was a turning point for me, Rex, because here I was, pretty far from home. I couldn't do anything about it. And you were right there. That, to me, is the strength in family. And we find it everywhere we go. And that day, between you and Tina has also passed. That why burns still strong. And here we are today. Talking to all of you out there, viewers and listeners, that, life goes on, and the strengths that we need are found within us. We don't have to look at outside. We're looking at inside. And it's at those times that we find the strength. Yes, Rex, where we can. I mean, we had all those ministers waiting for us to get up on stage to talk. And the difference, and this is where speakers, trainers, coaches, I want you to understand this. Let your audience determine your presentation. Because at that moment in time, I did not want to use a PowerPoint. And so for about an hour and some, I just spoke from my heart. And that, for me, has been what's led me to the authenticity, that someone in the audience, no matter where we are at, no matter what time of day it is, there's someone in the audience that needs to hear the story that we need to tell. And that's why I always say your voice, your story, your impact, someone out there in the world is just waiting to hear it. And the one thing that I learned is this: when you can help others find their voice and help them own it, the ripple effect, like we said before, is like, it's not a ripple anymore, Rex. It's a tsunami. It's a tsunami. And it's something that really, that one day in my life created a tsunami of understanding why we show up, Rex, and why we do things. Yes.
That is awesome and so very beautiful. And Michelle had mentioned that she loves the stories you share. I just wanted to point it out because Michelle came through and said that. And thank you, Michelle. So yeah, it's amazing how there's a saying, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Yeah.
Some people will take exception to that, and they'll say, well, and my argument always is, if you think it's so, it will be so. Meaning, if you think things happen for you, they're more apt, to experience that. If you think they happen to you, they're more apt to feel that kind of thing. And yet, at that moment and that day, when what was offered was, your mom transitioning, and right before you're about to go on stage while we're having breakfast, um, Helen Keller said it. She said, you need to see the door that opens when the other door closes, and you kind of like pivoted, you shifted, you saw the door, and you stepped through it with a full, presence of who you are, and that was really not only touching, but it was really super impressive.
Oh, well, it was a turning point in my life, and how I showed up and how I served. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so if people want to reach you, I know that it says, your website below, but and they can get to you through the website.
They can get to me through the website. You can find me on LinkedIn. You know what the good news is, Rex? There's not many Mamies out there.
Indeed.
In fact,
And
yesterday.
I know two.
Yes.
Maybe.
It is the funniest thing because, I always say, find me, Mamie, Mamie-Jean. And yesterday on one of another podcast that I was on, they were like, oh, Mamie-Jean, we were expecting a Southern belle. I said,
Yeah.
I am from the South. Hawaii, that's pretty South.
Point well taken. Now,
yeah.
in terms of other things, I mean, you have books or audios or anything that you share that they can find through your website?
We have books. The biggest thing that I do today is we run book writing courses. So we help people write those books, and then we help them literally take that book and not only write a book, guys. Writing the book is one thing, but we take a look at and we take those books to see how do we move them from that invisibility so that they can be influential. And we do it through several things. We find purpose. Why are they writing that book, and what purpose is that book going to serve? And here we go again, purpose and serve, right? That underlies everything that we do. So you'll be able to find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. And you can also find me at i3empowermentsolutions.com. And you can also, we are in the process, Rex, of also launching our podcast called Leveraging Up. And so that's going to be coming into full fruition, and we're going to be posting. We've done almost 71 different interviews already. So we're getting ready for that to be released to the public. And we'll go ahead and post that. And then, of course, those of you who are listening in, we're live streaming on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So just one more opportunity to get out there.
Absolutely. And we should say we're also streaming on YouTube right now.
And YouTube. Okay.
And so people, just so that people know that they're watching on rexsykestv.com, whether they're on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook, this is coming to you from rexsykestv.com. But the replay is at Create Your Best Life with Rex, the YouTube channel, right there. And you can see it as it scrolls by. So if you like the show and you want to share it out to your friends, go again, subscribe, like, comment, and then, but be sure to share, because that way we can reach more people. That ripple becomes a tsunami because of you, who who act in sharing the things that you enjoy sharing and like and move forward in the world. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How did you start all of this, Mamie? How did you get involved? I mean, you were doing, the running and the Special Olympics and stuff, but how did you move from what you were doing into how you're doing it now? What was the change for you?
You mentioned life happens for you. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Life happens for you. And, my life, because I lived on an island, I always said, I got to find something that'll take me outside of that environment. So part of the dream was I was going to go into the Olympics, Rex. And so, in order to do that, I had to actually train and be the best in what I did. And so track was the door that opened a new world for me. And and if some of you can understand this, running also closed the door for me. And it was not about the closing of the door, but it was closing the door and what else is going to happen. And so I went in 1976. I had the opportunity to actually run in a championship meet. And my coach, who was not used to me, actually put me into the hurdles, Rex. And I'm not a hurdle runner. I'm a 100-meter, 200-meter runner. And the hurdler was my sister Beatrice. But what happened was, because this was a championship meet, I couldn't just drop out of the hurdles. I had to complete the hurdles. And the one thing that I needed to do was I needed to qualify, because our 4x4 relay, there was someone there. It was an Olympic spotter there that actually was looking at another gal who was a year older than me. And she needed to be seen in the 4x4 in order for her to actually get a tryout for the Olympic training team. And so in order to do that, I had to run the hurdles. And so when I ran the hurdles, I was in first place up until the last hurdle. And when I hit that last hurdle, my foot landed really oddly. And that's when I fractured my arch. And when that happened, the dreams of going to the Olympics faded pretty quick, Rex. It faded pretty quick. And so who'd have thunk it? The dream of the Olympics. And this is a lesson I want you all to hear, everyone. When one door closes, there's another bigger one waiting for me. And that is what happened. I could not, when I was in a cast for over 6 months. And so it was pretty serious. So those dreams, this is what happened. All of the scholarships, all of the people who would have taken me to the next level in college, they all disappeared. They disappeared. And so life happens for us. And what happened at that moment was I got an opportunity. I had been a volunteer with Special Olympics. I had an opportunity to actually volunteer to run some of the events as a volunteer. 3 years later, Rex, I did make it to the Olympics. I made it to the Special Olympics when I was able to take a team of athletes into Yale Bowl to actually compete in the International Special Olympic Summer Games. And so it was just a different story that I was living at that time. And then who would have thought that 35 years later, I would be retiring from Special Olympics after impacting 12,000 athletes and 20+ thousand volunteers. That was a life changer.
Wow. Well, wow, what a story. And the other thing about it is I often use hurdling as an example
Mm,
of life because a lot of people are running a race, right? But then there are those people who actually put hurdles on the track to make it
right.
harder to get over. So when people worry about, the problems that arise or the obstacles that are there, some people love the obstacles, but those obstacles can take their toll. And yet, with an attitude like your attitude, you took the hit, you broke your arch kind of thing, you fractured your arch, but that led you to what you're doing today.
Absolutely.
And you may have had a different story, might have been great, might not have been great, we don't know, but you have developed the future and the present that you have now as a result of a change of plans.
Absolutely. That was a very important lesson for me, Rex, is that you know, being from the islands, getting to travel all over the world, knowing that we get bound by the shackles that we put on ourselves. And like I said, I got places to go, people to see, and things to do. And the most amazing thing was my dad said, "You can do anything. And when you fall, just get up faster and go again." Now, that for me has stuck through everything that I've done in life. So I may fall down. I may have, that hurdles. Yep. I fractured the arch on the last hurdle. I was in first place and I crossed the line. I crossed the line, everyone, in third. I
Wow.
finished the race. So, how does that apply to our lives? Yes. How does that apply to our lives? No matter what we're going through, the pain that we may be experiencing, the hurdles that we put in front of us, there's always a way, always a way. And I know that you and I also met on in the stages and in the rooms for T. Harbecker. And
Yeah.
so I learned to be a warrior. And our warrior oath is over, under, around, and through. Anything, anything it takes, a warrior will do. So
Indeed.
we just
Indeed.
get up.
Aho.
Aho.
Yeah. No, it is beautiful. It is amazing because one of my favorite quotes, people hear me say it all the time, is attributed to, Henry Ford by way of Napoleon Hill. I don't know if there's
Mm,
ever a quote out there that Ford said it, but Hill said he said it. And it was, "I never let what I cannot do prevent me from doing what I can."
yes.
And I adore that quote because have you ever gone into a mall or a shopping center and you hit that door and it's locked?
Yeah.
And what do most people do? They go, they
As
keep
if
trying to
it's
open
going
the
to
door,
open.
and then suddenly, somewhere down the line, they go, "Oh, okay," and they go to the other door that opens because. But that's the kind of thing that you faced when you fractured your arch. Is you were able to shift and move forward, where some people will just sit and try that same thing over and over and over again. It's kind of like the universe is going, "There's a different path for you," and they're going, "No, no, no, I got to get through this door." And so, what a beautiful example that you shared with us about they the trite saying is, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. But
Hmm.
beautiful.
Absolutely. And so that is the foundation of my life is when things happen, stop, breathe, correct, and continue, or stop, breathe, shift, and continue. And so, I like to say that I walk the talk. I've been there. Things have been difficult. And yet we always find a way, we always find a light, and we always find another path.
Absolutely.
And it truly is. We just shift and continue. And I think that's one of the bigger lessons that came along in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I created something called the Attitude Activator way back in the 80s and released it in the 90s. And part of the process back then and this day, what makes it successful is there's 5 stages in this audio that you listen to with headphones.
Mm,
The very first stage is it throws you kind of into an agitation state. Because what it's doing is it's training you that when you're agitated or when there's a trigger or something that you don't want and you're starting to feel it, to stop. So the voice goes, stop and be different. You stop, you interrupt the pattern, you take a breath, you shift, you move, and then you move into the new way of being.
Yeah.
And you just described that. And it, and people don't understand that, again, when you hit that door and it won't open, to stop, to actually stop. Because if you keep doing what you're doing and you're not getting the results you want, then, as Einstein said, that's insanity. But to be able to be aware, to be able to become present in that moment and go, let me take a pause here, which was you were saying, and then move it, redirect into a way that is productive or useful or better than the old way, is so simple that people miss it.
Absolutely.
And yet that is, the basis of transformation for all of us at any moment of any day.
We have choice. That was the other word that my dad used to use. Mamie, you always have choice, right? And sometimes the choice we make may not be the optimized choice, but nevertheless, we made a choice. And it's at that moment of making that choice that will decide how stuck or how much further we can go when we realize in awareness that it's just temporary. It's just temporary. And how many people can actually say that this is just temporary, yeah? And then move on. And that's a big one for my kids. And, rather than having a discipline, my words to my kids, which is amazing, Rex, because I can hear them say it to my grandkids, is have fun, make good decisions, right? Have fun, make good decisions. And when you need me, Mom is just a phone call away. And I'm so glad that my kids understand that making mistakes is okay.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Making mistakes is okay. And that when you make the mistakes, it's not whether it's right or wrong. It's what are you going to do with that? What lessons are you going to learn? And how are you going to choose that next path, right? What choices are you going to be making? And, in my lifetime, there's so many amazing stories that happen. And one that comes to mind is this little 10-year-old girl who attended a seminar with her mom. And that seminar was called Mission to Millions. And she was sitting there listening to all the things people were going to do because they had a mission. And she came up to me and she said, "Hey, Miss Mamie, what can a 10-year-old do, Miss Mamie? What can a 10-year-old do?" And what I had observed over the 3 days that she was with me was that she had an amazing talent for art. And what she was doing art and then giving away to the people that were making a difference for her in the room. And I said, well, Maddie, you're already making a difference in people's lives. What did you observe when you handed that beautiful artwork to someone in class? And she goes, "Oh my God, Miss Mamie, they were so happy." I said, little things in small doses done consistently over time will make big differences. And she said, "Huh." So I said, "What do you think you can do to make that difference?" And this was another tear-jerking moment for me because she went away, she thought about it, and she came back, Rex. And she said, "Miss Mamie, I think I know what I can do." I said, "What's your idea?" She goes, "Miss Mamie, I have a dad, and he made a lot of mistakes. My dad made so many mistakes that he's in prison today."
Wow.
And I said, "Wow." And she says, "But you know what, Miss Mamie? Everyone makes mistakes, and my dad made a lot, but I still love him." I said, "Wow." That's a story to tell, Maddie. And would you believe that 10-year-old girl, a year later, we were doing an event, I believe in Pennsylvania. And I got a note, Miss Mamie, are you going to be in Pennsylvania? I said, yeah, I'm the director. I'm the supervisor for that event. And she goes, I got a present for you. I said, okay, I'll see you there. And Maddie came running towards me, gave me a big hug. And she said, remember that day when you told me that a 10-year-old could make a difference? And I said, absolutely. And she pulled out this book that said, everyone makes mistakes.
Wow.
And I still love my dad.
What?
That book alone took her to a #1 bestseller, Rex. And, you know, we had also talked about dreaming so big. And you know what her dream was when she said, she goes, I want to go to New Zealand so I can see where Lord of the Rings is. I want to be in the White House. And in a year, Rex, because of that book, because of what she shared, she got up on other stages to tell people about how, yes, everyone makes mistakes. And it still can help others to heal and to move forward. And that year she appeared she had lunch in the White House. She went to New Zealand to speak at a conference for children.
Wow.
Now that is priceless. So life happens for us. And that one 10-year-old is making a difference in the world because of what she shared.
I love that. And wow, I hope it speaks to not just me and, you know, but everybody watching and those who heard what you just said, because I don't think people realize the degree of impact they can have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it won't happen to me. It happens to other people, or, you know, it would take too much effort, or this, that, and the other, whatever. You know, I always say, you know, people talk themselves out of it before they ever start it. You know,
Yeah.
you know. But there's a 10-year-old girl who acted in her own best interest to share the story, and look where it took her. And anybody watching could say, that could be me too. I
Mm-hmm.
could do this. I have a story to tell, or I have, you know, something I want to be able to reach people with and add value to their lives. And that could be you. You could be in New Zealand, or you could be at the White House, or whatever dreams you have, you know, of becoming. But the difference between most people and that little girl is she did something about
Yes,
it.
she did. Yes, she did.
Wow, that's really cool. I'm really happy that you shared that. I hadn't heard that story before. That's really very cool, very touching.
It is. It is. And that one moment in time, everyone, if you're listening, was the door that she saw opened a whole new life for her.
Amen.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about you? Do you have that story to tell, listeners? Connect, because that is the stories that we want to tell. That's the stories we want to tell.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. And I want to say to the people who are watching, you know, you're watching Mamie Lamley on rexsykestv.com. And I want to again put your website up here, and you can reach out to Mamie through this website. And there's books, there's products, there's all sorts of things there. So be sure to go and check it out and go take a look at it, and you'll be glad that you did, and connect with Mamie. And as well, replay the show, share the show, and let's help get the word out. Maybe we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to just give you the floor to say anything about anything that's on your heart that you want to share or inform or.
Wow. You know, what I really want you to understand is this. No matter what you've been through, no matter what stories you've been telling yourself, know this, that your voice, the story you have, can make an impact. And someone once told me, the stories that we have inside of us could be the story that unlocks the prison that someone else is sitting in. Do you want to be that person? And if the answer is yes, then take the chance, move forward, take that step forward, and make that story known to others, because someone is really waiting to hear that. And there is so much going on in our world today, and we never know at that exact moment when we share something that it could impact the life of someone else. And that's where Maddie is about. And imagine helping someone else to find their voice and then owning it. Now that becomes priceless. That becomes priceless. And when you have the choice to do or not to do, I hope you choose do. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It could be messy. In all your glory, do it. Take that step forward. Take the leap. Believe that what you're doing could make that difference in someone else's life. And I'm going to say this. Rex helps people do just that. He's allowing me to tell the stories that I have experienced through life. And the difference between you and I, and this is a challenge, but it's not. It's just that move, gentle push forward is this. The difference between you and I is this. I found someone, a mentor, a friend, an aunt, or an uncle who could take me to that next level. And all I did was every moment in my life is because someone else reached out a hand just like this and said, come on over. Can you be that someone? Because there are people out there that need to be seen and heard. And even the littlest action can make big differences in our lifetime. So take that choice. Take the action. Live on purpose so that you can know that what you do today sets you up for life tomorrow. And for me, that's what it's all about, Rex, because I have 4 amazing grandbabies that are living the life that they're choosing, and including the Ohana, so that we not just grow on our own. How many people can say this? My kids and my grandkids, they are always asking, oh, so when are we going on vacation together? Now that, for me, is what I call forever moments. Are you creating forever moments out there? Because those are the moments that people are going to remember when we are gone. And it's the legacy we choose to live today that will make differences, not for us, but for the future. And that's where my grandchildren are. They are the future. And so I'm going to give them the path that they can choose so that they can build bigger and better futures. How's that, Rex?
Wow, that is beautiful. Yeah, and what I so appreciate about you and our time together here and our times in the past is that you really do uplift and inspire and to help edify other people. And in doing so, you can receive. But it's that giving. I think particularly today in this world where it seems cruel in many ways, or it seems difficult, or people are having a lot of confusion and chaos, that the one thing any one of us can do is to really reach out, lend a hand, give a hand, try and help another person get through whatever difficulty they're getting through, or just walk with them wherever they're going, in their journey on life, because we're all in it together. We're on this rock circling the sun, and to be a friend, to help be a guide or a mentor, is and our children and your grandchildren are the future. And so what we do now impacts them years down the road. So how do we see to it that they down the road are continuing the practice of giving and edifying and uplifting other people too, to make the world nicer and gentler and kinder and that we can share in together. So I love what you're doing, and I love how you're doing it, and I love everything about you. And I thank you for being my friend and my guest today.
Thank you.
And it'll be the first of many, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
You're very welcome, Rex. We got lots of big things to do, hon.
Indeed, we do. And, so with that, Mamie, I'm gonna say I'll see you just in a moment. Please enjoy, and thank you so much for this. And again, everybody go and visit Mamie. Her is. Do you say I3 or do you say
it's I3? I3empowermentsolutions.com. See you there.
So see you there. Thank you, Mamie. I'll see you in just a moment. Love you.
Love you.
So I want to thank Mamie, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of us for being here together in this special time together, which is recorded and can be shared with others so that they can watch it whenever it's convenient for them. But I encourage you to share it and also share the channel where the replay is, so that you can subscribe, like, comment, engage. I mean, it's one thing to watch, it's another thing to interact. And guess what? If you interact even on a YouTube channel, you're putting an energy and an effort and a way of being that, hey, who knows, we'll see it. So think of it in terms of, if we can do a goodness for you, if you can do a goodness for someone else, we just keep those waves, those ripples, that exponential thing going. And I appreciate you, and I love you for doing it, and I love you for showing up. So thank you. I'm going to tell you about the book behind me. It is Life on Your Terms. I wrote the book as a blueprint for how you can live your life and navigate the rough waters by becoming a better sailor, so that you can enjoy all the kind of waters that the world offers you. If there's storms, you know how to handle them. If there's calm, you know how to handle it. If it's flat, you know how to handle it. And then you can go up for those joy rides at other times. It is a blueprint designed to get you from where you are to where you want to be, easier and more effortlessly, faster in many ways than is typically known, because so many people are struggling and really working hard and taking all this massive action, trying to do all this stuff and 10 times their stuff and breaking their boards. All fine, but you don't have to. You can do it with ease and grace and love and fun and delight, and that's what I want to help you do. So if you get my book from Amazon, I'll gift you a $497 bonus online video training called The Mastery Loop. And what it is it's about how you master your thoughts, your feelings, your words, your actions, and any talent or skill that you have, so that you can do things faster, quicker, easier, and with more fun. So go get the book from Amazon, and then follow the instructions at rexsykes.com/book, and you'll get the training. And guess what? You get the paperback or the hardcover book, and they send it to you, overnight or a couple of days. You'll get the training instantly, and you'll have it even before you get the book. And they're a great companion for each other. So help you to transform your life, to transform your mindset, your attitude, your feelings, your behaviors, so that you live life on your terms and help others do the same with them. I'm Rex Sykes. I will see you next time. Share out the show. I want to thank Mamie-Jean Lamley for being here today and sharing all the wonderful things she shared. So thank you, and we'll see you the next time. Before you go, I see that there is Get Your. Thank you, Melody. Thank you, Melody. And everybody have a beautiful, wonderful day, and we'll see you the next time. We'll have another wonderful guest. And thank you for being support. Thanks for the emails and the encouragement and everything that you do. I appreciate you. And remember, as I always say, if you consider something a problem, it's a problem. If you consider it's a blessing, it's a blessing. So celebrate everything. And with that, I say goodbye. See you.